Hello, family and friends. My name is Nathan, and I'm doing a video journal of my preparation for Ironman Busselton. And this week is week 11, so that is the 10th of September. It's taper week because today was race day in Sunshine Coast 70.3. So I have a set list of items that I go through, so let's get on with it. How am I feeling? Well, generally speaking, sort of all over as an 8 out of 10, but I would say in my body and the work that I've done today, I would say a 6 out of 10. Training distances, swim 4.2k, my cycling is 189k, and the run 29k. Weight, now because we're actually on location, there's no actual scales to make this determination, so I would guess around 83. And I guess that's normally through the average of the week, so 83 to 84, but hard to tell today. Things learnt from the training. So rather than making something up again, I'm going to say nil on this column. Okay, injuries and niggles. Well, on Thursday, riding home, which was roughly about 2 o'clock, it had been raining just during my swim session. And so as I was riding home, essentially I was waiting for the rain to get better. I thought it did, and well, it actually did, but I went through a roundabout, my front wheel went left and I went right, which meant impact on my forearm, as you can see here, and then the left side was my hip and near my ankle. I can't actually be sure of any marks on the bike, but nothing appears to be on the left-hand side because impact was all on the right. Fortunately, it was at low speed on the roundabout, and I got up and continued home. So I took a fair amount of bark off, so there was a good amount of blood there, but when I got home, cleaned it all up and put a non-stick dressing on it. Just only really had from the impact from my right forearm. So I was expecting some bruising. So that was basically 3.5 days ago. So of course the other injury which we are in process of dealing with is the Achilles tendonitis, which through the week has been good and improving. Only little bits of discomfort, but I've been continuing the regime, which is strengthening and stretching. And I'll continue to do that until I'm sure that it's gone away, which, as I may have mentioned before, is where you wake up and there is no tightness, and of course during running there's no discomfort, or of course worse, pain. Good thing is I don't have pain from it, I just have discomfort, which as per the syndrome or condition disappears usually after around 10 minutes of, and in my case, running. Equipment and maintenance. I had success in aligning my alloy brake pads, so changed over from carbon brake pads to alloy brake pads on the front. My test ride last Saturday showed that they were good, but squealing a little bit, so they needed further adjustments, and I did it within 15 minutes, which I was quite shocked because there's normally a fair amount of pain doing that. So I was very happy in changing the front, finishing the alignment of the brake pads. So after riding home, as I was saying earlier, on Thursday, wiped the bike over from all, obviously, the grit and the rain, and of course the main concern there is water in the chain to cause corrosion, to speed up the degradation of your chain. So I wiped it clean, spun the chain so that I could get the water out of the links, and as I was wiping it, it got cleaner and cleaner until there was nothing coming off on the rag. So I was quite surprised by that, because I thought that there'd be a fair amount of residual grit, and you can tell because you're still wiping the same chain and the grit is still coming up from the cloth. So all I needed to do was to spin the chain, wipe the chain, and then re-lubricate the chain. So I was very happy with that. So it's all good to go for another period before it'll need a proper deep clean, and of course re-oil lubrication. Now the other thing that happened in equipment and maintenance is Tuesday I couldn't ride home because my rear tyre was flat. So I was a US on start situation, couldn't even go. So I got the wife to pick me up, and as it turns out, it wasn't a case of replacing the spare, because the extender was broken off inside the original valve. So I couldn't transfer the extender from the tyre, which I couldn't use, to the spare. So that was actually impossible. That's a pretty rare situation that your extender breaks off inside the existing valve. Actually a pretty rare thing for the extender to break in anyway, actually. I've never actually seen that before. So, a bit of a weird one, and good thing it was an easy place to pick up. So, I've changed the rear tyre from a glue-on tyre, which is what it was, changed the whole wheel, to a tube and tyre rear wheel. So I'm now carrying my usual glue-on spare, and of course two tube tyre, two tubes. So that's all good, and that will be working well. So my plan there is that if I can have the extender removed, and of course this is threaded, so it's I don't have the tools to successfully pull this off, so I'm going to take it to a friend and see if he can do that, and that way this tyre, which is a pretty good quality tyre and reasonably expensive one, can be used again. At the moment, I'm going to put success and failures into my race summary. I'm going to do a brief summary now, so you can decide on successes and failures. So at the start of the swim, or I guess the whole event, but really the start of the swim had shortened timing. Now, transition opened, I think it was 5 o'clock to 5:40, and then the start was 6 o'clock. So normally there's at least an hour between closing of transition. So it sort of caught me out a little bit. As it turned out, as I was setting everything up, I forgot to put my socks in my shoes. And of course then I had to run back into transition, put them in. And unfortunately, as I was doing my last toilet stop, I grabbed someone else's bag as well as mine. And fortunately, I was able to find that person. They put it over the announcement speaker, and I was able to give them their bag back. So that could have been very bad for them. But all was not lost. So with all that going on, I only had, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 minutes swim warm-up, which is not good enough and not long enough. But that's on me. And fortunately, after the swim started, it didn't cost me too much, and when I say cost me, it's things like having feelings of a bit of a panic or anxiety type attack. I didn't really have any of that. That's the first thing that can happen if you don't warm up swim properly. The other things that can happen are tightness in the hamstrings or quads, which makes your legs feel like cement out the back. You want them to be stretched and ready in the right state. Just helps put everything at ease and helps you to get into your swimming rhythm. So only mild implications of a non-effective warm-up, and certainly next occasion I will be warming up much better, and that will be the Busselton race. So the swim was pretty ordinary in terms of time, but at this venue you'll find that the Sunshine Coast swim, there's usually some chop and you're fighting some current in there somewhere. So while I was inside 30 minutes. This at Cairns, this race I was 34 and change. That's 5 minutes there. And while others had the same sort of situation, so that's the conditions in the water, that's what you dealt with. So Garmin put me at 2 kilometres, so 1k off course is pretty alright, which is obviously 5% of the course. Not bad. So yeah, just I was hoping for better, but it wasn't to be. So we live with that and we move on. Now, out on the bike, there was a significant tailwind heading out to the turnaround because it's just 2 loops. And then, of course, a significant headwind coming back in, which was quite challenging. Probably the most noisy amount of volume from wind in the ears that I've had in a race. And I suspect, just thinking back through it, that those headwind areas was where I was probably most efficient in the bike. Pretty much happy with everything except for how I handled the headwinds. So I came in at 2 hours 41 minutes, which is about probably 5 minutes longer than I would have hoped, but we know why. My fueling went well. It worked, so yeah, I was happy with that. But really, that's what I believe is the area that we need to really pick up on, which is the resistance, power under pressure, power under resistance. So I'm hoping that we can deal with that certainly a lot better, because there will be a lot of that in the Busselton race. There'll be tailwinds and then a turn. It's a multi-loop course with a number of little finger sections. So you'll be going well, you'll do a turnaround and come back and head into what you were doing well in. So that will cost. So torque work is what's going to be required. In the run, the temperature was still very good, and I don't believe it got over 25 degrees, so very pleasant, and like I was believing, no real reasons for anyone to not have a good performance, provided they prepared well, of course. Now, unfortunately, had 2 toilet interruptions, and they were full toilet interruptions. It was about 2k and about 15k. But apart from that, I was able to push all the way through the run, and in my world, probably enjoy running the most. I like all of them, but running the most. If I have a good run at the end, then it makes the day better, and I feel a lot better about everything that happened. So this race course has a very large hill in it, a sort of gradual slow death, and you've got to do that 4 times. So I was able to do that on each occasion without walking, whereas in the past I have walked. So that's a big win. I used the grass when I could, so there was grass beside the path. That didn't work as much as I thought, but when you're running on grass rather than the path, more forgiveness there and less on the body. The other thing that happened, about at 19k, I stopped for a short time, stretched my hamstrings because they were getting tight, and I was a little worried about tearing or stretching them too far. So the run finished up 1 hour 43 and change, so that's all within quite a good time on that course, certainly bearing in mind the hills that you'll do 4 times, like I mentioned. The Cairns course is flat, so coming in at 1:43 on this course, very happy with that. It's a good time. So all up, it was 5 hours and 5 minutes. Now, I would have preferred significantly, just the icing on the cake would have been inside 5, but not to be. So I would suggest that 5 minutes that could have happened different, they didn't, but could have happened different, is swim, 2 toilet stops, and of course the bike headwind. That could easily equate to way more than 5 to 6 minutes, but 5 to 6 is all that was needed on the day to get the extra bonus, if you will. So yeah, a good result. I'm happy with that. It's good, and I certainly felt like I could have gone much further in thinking about what's coming for the Busselton race. So the week ahead is recovery week. That shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And then we start the final prep for the march to Busselton race day in December. So that's where things are sitting. If you'd like access to my Garmin data to see what's going on there, send me a request. Enjoy your training and your week, and we'll be talking next week, which will be at the end of recovery week. Now, I probably should mention, as looking at it from what the coaches put in, there's not a lot in there, certainly a lot of recovery though, so it'll be a case of being a bit patient and communicating with the coach so that proper recovery does happen. All right, enjoy your week and talk to you again very soon. Bye for now.